Think and Shift, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about what we do and how damn hard it is to define that. So we are a holistic design studio. If you had to put our work into boxes, you might say that we design products and spaces, and this is mostly how we articulate ourselves from a brand perspective. And thank you, David Trubridge, for articulating the difference between brand and identity. As our identity evolves, and our business does, our brand has been doing so as well. So as Margaret said, we work over a very broad range of design problems. We come from an industrial design background or design innovation, and now we work on very small scale things from coffee cups to larger scale things such as cafes that those coffee cups might sit inside of. We work on citywide systems in terms of things like wayfinding. We work on bars and fit outs and furniture.
So what is holistic design? This is one thing that we're still figuring out, but we break it down to 3 principles. Next slide. So generalism. So we are design generalists. We are still figuring this out, as I said, but we work across the massive broad spectrum of things. So we apply the same principles to one thing as we do to something else. And as Dan said, that might be a bar fit out, or it might be a coffee cup, or some packaging design. We design across all touch points. So within a bar, for example, we might design the cutlery as much as we design the full experience, and it is that holistic, that full breadth of work, so we get to control every single touch point. And thirdly, context. So every context is contextual. So no context should be the same, and every environment is different. So we work across lots of different areas and environments that should be catered to the environment or catered to the client or the context.
So to just take you through a brief kind of snapshot of the work that we do, I've tried to put them in boxes. Like I said, it's very hard to do, and that's a little bit of the theme of what we're going to be talking about today, is the boundaries between disciplines or lack thereof that we have noticed in our professional practice. So we design retail. I Love Ugly asked us to help them with a problem around fitting out stores quickly and effectively, basically bringing their brand to life in a 3-dimensional sense. All throughout the world without the massive costs that they were currently undergoing with their fit-outs. We approached the design like we were designing a system of products rather than designing a space, even though it was a spatial design challenge. So what we said to them was, what you need a system of furniture and display units that can be used to fit out different contexts, but always feel at home and always feel very much I Love Ugly. We design furniture. We actually started in furniture design when we first left university. So everything from luxury coat stands to quirky, to use that word again, that has seemed to be the strange motif about what New Zealand might be, quirky floor lamps to contemporary outdoor hammocks. We design workplaces. This is Motion Sickness Studio, a small creative company based out of Auckland, who asked us to design their space. Again, though, we chose to see it as more of a furniture design challenge than a spatial design challenge. So we didn't want to mess too much with the existing architecture because it was a beautiful space to begin with. So we chose rather to focus on the small details and how they might bring that overall space to life. This is a project for Paymark. So Paymark came to us and said, would you refresh our offices, please? We have rebranded both externally and internally. We want our space to reflect our new brand values. They basically asked us to remove all the ugly artwork that was on the walls currently and replace it with something, and I think they were expecting a big billboard. We said to them, actually, that is absolutely the wrong approach. If you want buy-in from your staff, this needs to feel like something that the staff are a part of. So instead of creating a design that was simply imposed on the staff, we created a system once more where the staff arrived on the Monday after having a briefing about the new brand on Friday to walls lined with cladding and a system of objects that can attach to that cladding. And then the whole of the Monday morning, the staff fitted out their own space. They hung these these shelving units, lights, etc., and built the space how they wanted it. This is our own space. This is a shared space in Auckland that we designed. It's called the Aviary, and we designed that for a company called Pitch, and now we actually take up residency in there as well. We designed children's products. So this was an interesting challenge for us as well, in that the client came to us expecting us to design them a smaller version of an adult's chair. They wanted a chair for their childcare centres that would provide a sense of enclosure, and they thought that that meant a smaller version of the ball chairs that they had currently. What we identified very quickly after researching into the context of the challenge was that children it's not the same problem, it's not the same issue as designing for adults. Children sit in things very differently. So we had to rethink the ergonomics of a chair altogether. We designed a spherical thing that doesn't imply that you have to sit in any particular orientation. It sits very low to the floor to suggest I am for children, not for adults. And that's an example of what we're talking about there. So we designed hospitality. This is another example of where the boundaries of design disciplines were kind of being crossed in our work. So we were asked to create a social space for, we were asked to create a bar in which people could drink and work at a university down in Christchurch. The first part of the challenge was identifying what that space would be called. It was a new kind of idea. We eventually called it a social space, and then we worked on not only the fit out of the space, the overall spatial experience, but also the individual elements. Every single piece of furniture in there just about is bespoke, designed by us, as well as we went into the branding of that space, and it became a product that they are now looking to roll out over different locations around the world. So we hired graphic designers and worked with them on the brand as much as we were thinking about it as a space. We design events. This is a more recent project where Microsoft asked us to create an event space in which they would launch the Surface Pro 4, their latest tablet product. They wanted to push the boundaries of what a tech event normally looks like. They're normally beautiful computers on a white plinth. They feel techy. They feel like they don't belong in the context that they actually belong in the real world. So we wanted to push that as far as we could. We said, why don't we create like a jungle and present these things in a jungle to kind of get people questioning, where does this thing actually belong? Maybe it belongs somewhere in between, in the home, in my real world, in my lifestyle. Interesting thing about this project is, again, we were crossing disciplinary boundaries. So we worked with the jellyologist, who is a conceptual food designer based out of Auckland. And we had these little jellies that helped paint the picture of what this overall experience was. So we were including food design as a spatial design element. And we also design for the future. So just want to talk to you about a particular project that we think kind of exemplifies the way that our work often sits at the in-between of disciplines or ideas. So this project is called Unknown, and I'll let James talk you through that.
So this project was interesting, and it was a self-initiated project by us that we wanted to explore an idea which was a juxtaposition between the modern and also the handcraft, and where we saw the future of these two ending up. So we've got these two different areas. One is a stark white sort of lab coat environment where everything's accurate, and the other side of things is this dirty sort of hands-on approach where everything's beautiful in its inaccuracies. So we asked ourselves a question: how might 3D printing and handcraft work together, not against one another, in the future? And in my mind, this image here kind of is a metaphor, or sums up the project in particular. It is the join between these two sort of different areas coming together to be one in this intersection of ideas. It is this modern technology, this modern form that we developed with the titanium 3D printing, with the handcraft, and one is cradling the other. And here you can see underneath the table, this is a table. You can see underneath the table, here's the handcrafted aspect of it, and the 3D printing is coming to meet that. The titanium 3D printing is an amazing process, something that is really advanced and one of New Zealand's most advanced manufacturing techniques, and it's combined with this traditional aspect. So this is one of the finished products here. We also developed a light to complement this, so exploring a traditional material, very historic with deep roots within New Zealand, something that isn't normally used in a contemporary or modern context. So this is jade, or pounamu, as Johnson likes to pick out, or pick me up on, sorry. And it's something that we really tried to explore and combine the two together. So there was something that was new, that was avant-garde, and bringing something that was contemporary in New Zealand context. And the 3D printing allowed us to do joins and things we couldn't do with traditional handcraft. The form that we tried to push with this wasn't the textbook 3D printing form that you quite often see within design, not this algorithmic type of string-like structure, but something that was a bit more contextual, a bit more at place within the home. And this was the end product there. So the process behind this was something that was very interesting to us and a big part of our journey, focusing on so the inaccuracies within the handcraft and exemplifying these and getting the 3D printing to match it. It's all about the intersection of the two coming together. So we allowed the craftsperson some parameters. So we gave them some parameters, and they got to work within the parameters to create what we thought was a beautiful piece of design. And the parameters were a rough form. It had to have 5 sides or five straight edges, and they got to work within that parameter and create whatever angle or whatever thickness they needed or they wanted to use. And then we matched the 3D printing to that through 3D scanning. So this is some of the CAD files of it, and again, it's the way that we design is mostly through CAD, and it's this handcraft where it meets this futuristic modern technology. And these are some of the process images just coming off the bed of the titanium 3D printing. And this is the final two together. So from our point of view, it is really trying to push something that we don't actually know the answer to. We're trying to explore the two coming together and really push something that is different and unique and new and an explorative piece of furniture.
So retrospect is a wonderful thing, and we're now at a point where we can look back at that project and kind of understand what it was really about, and I think this word Nexus was really important to us. It was again about intersection of ideas, of different backgrounds. 10 minutes apparently. 2 minutes, okay. Well, I'll move on from that one then. So this is what we thought that our creative world was going to look like when we left university. We thought that everything was tied up into beautiful little boxes, and it was very easy to basically click on one of those buttons and go ahead and be an industrial designer. This is the reality of what we've experienced. This is not a map of the entirety of New Zealand's creative industry. It is a map simply of where we have worked so far. As you can see, it's an endless mess, and it's a beautiful mess. And we think that it's the points at which these lines intersect that all the really good work happens. It's not the origin of the line or the destination of the line that's important. It's the murky space in between. And to the architects in the room, I would just say that we have experienced that if there is an industry within a discipline, within New Zealand's creative industry that is a little bit difficult to access, it's architecture. And we understand that there are legal reasons why that would be the case. But we just want to say, catch up, guys, listen up. Let us in, pop your head over the fence, and we'll make some beautiful design babies together.
20 seconds.
So we were going to end it here, but we went away last session to add some more slides. We had said before the presentation We won't do any opinion-based stuff, right? We're not experienced enough to offer our opinion of what the New Zealand design DNA might all be about and what the conclusion of this symposium might be. Then we said, fuck it. So if you scale up the same map, and it's interesting how similar systems and processes play out over different scales. If you scale up the same map, perhaps in the future, countries it will all be about the collaboration between them, the space between different ideas and different cultures within those countries. And I would just suggest that the one question that hasn't been asked yet today, and probably the most fundamentally important question, is not what is our design DNA, but should we have one? Looking forward, based on our experience so far, which is quite short, really, at the end of the day, but we would suggest that actually perhaps creating a DNA is just another boundary that at some stage we're going to have to undo to really do good work. Thank you.